Oh yeah. Oh right. We got a little music vibe going there, and well, hello, and welcome to the PJH Writing Command Center. And I am Paul John Hausleben of God Bless the Keg Publishing, LLC. I'm the flagship author, chief photographer, chief cook, bottle washer, and music critic, music reviewer for God Bless the Keg Publishing. And that brings us to this podcast. And we've added a little bit of technology here. I got to push the right buttons here because I'm not too swift at this. But here we are for this afternoon's podcast, and I'm recording this on a Saturday afternoon in Central Virginia. And I had to wait until the neighbor stopped blowing, which took about 3 hours. He must have had a mountain of leaves that was 20,000 feet high, but it's blower season here. So here we are, and we are going to put the music review, music critic hat on today. And this podcast, it came as a result of a conversation at a bar, one of my local favorites with my buddy, and that seems to be a common denominator in my life. Don't judge me. Bars, talking to my buddy. But anyway, he says, Paulie, you're doing a great job. Enjoyed the podcast. Love to rant on sports and your opinions. You make some good points. And then I love the Easter thing with Harry and Paul, and it was real funny, and old Harry and Paul stories, and your storytelling's great, and blah, blah, blah. And then you had the emotional musings about your dad, and newer isn't always better. But when you got to confront the elephant in the room, and I took a sip of beer, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I better. But what's the elephant in the room? He said music reviews. You go on like a ding-dong dope in the beginning of your podcast and your YouTube about, yeah, you're this, you're that, chief photographer, music critic, music review. Well, get to the music. He said, sooner or later, somebody on the internet is going to dig and find those old reviews. And the stuff you wrote about Led Zeppelin, it's going to be the politician that is in a social media post now deleted. Harry Schmudley recants and deletes the post he said about such and such. Yeah, it's only a matter of time before some of those old music reviews come to haunt me and what I wrote about Led Zeppelin. So here we are, confession time. And first, a little background. In my primary job, which is facility, property management, corporate security, stuff to do with buildings, in 2008, 2009, the Great Recession hit everybody hard, of course. And at that time, I was relocated to Atlanta, Georgia. And here I am, this fish out of water with this New Jersey accent and floating around in Atlanta doing the best I can. And it reminded me of that movie, that old movie where the gal says, yeah, like you blend. So I would try not to say coffee and walking my dog and root for the New York Yankees and that kind of stuff, but it didn't work. And during the week, I was real busy and real excited, and we were trying to keep the company going, and everything was kind of a mess. And we worked long hours, and on the weekends, I was in this house that the owner of the company couldn't sell because nobody could sell any houses. Nobody could sell anything back then. It was kind of horrible. And I would hang out there and do what I could do and walk around big box stores and go to the food store, try to, learn where I was. And I love living in Atlanta, except for the traffic. But I love the place. It was a wonderful place to live. And it would get a little lonely and a little bit dreary on the weekends, and no family, no friends, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And a buddy of mine kind of changed my life because they sent me this email and said, hey, Paulie, I know this guy, such and such, who's starting up a website for music, and he needs folks to write music reviews. And I thought of you because it's mostly about prog rock, progressive rock. Take a sip of water here. And I thought of you because, nobody knows prog rock like you do. I don't know about that, but I am a prog rock fan. So I checked it out and I sent the gentleman an email and he said, yeah, write me a test review, which I did on Jethro Tull, Thick as a Brick. And the website owner loved it. And he's like, yeah, man, you're on board. I love the writing. I love the style. I love the review, your knowledge. And it paid very, very little. I wasn't really after the money as much as I was after to write. And I had written a lot when I was young. And actually, when I was 16, 17, I wrote the 4 stories for Time Bomb in the Cupboard and Other Adventures of Harry and Paul. And writing these reviews inspired me and made me recall my writing roots. And I wrote a few reviews and they got accepted, and I made a few bucks and kind of made a name for myself. I wrote under a pen name. And I remembered Time Bomb, and I dug around a dusty old box and found the notebook that had the original manuscripts for Time Bomb, because I lived out of dusty old boxes. They were all piled in the front of this 3,000 square foot beautiful home that I only occupied about 100 square foot space of. And I took Time Bomb and I dictated it onto a old cassette tape recorder. And then I took the dictation and put a pair of earbuds on and typed it into a manuscript and cobbled together this book. I took the one story. There were 4 stories. I left it at the 3. And that was a Christmas story that I put aside. And we published that later on. It's called The Christmas Tree. And I published the 3 original stories when I was 17, 16. And we made it into a little self-published book that I, by mistake, I only intended to publish it for family and friends and send them copies. It's a kind of fun thing to do, type spoof thing at holiday time for holiday gifts. And I released it to the world on the big the big internet sales machine. And I wasn't really intending to do that. It was unedited. It was a mess. It had a lot of typos. I purposely put a lot of mistakes in there, spoofing things that were in the old neighborhood and family and friends' names. And my goodness, it sold like 100 copies in the first 2 weeks. And people are sending me emails telling me how much they love these stories and they're funny and they're original and they remind them of New Jersey and growing up in Patterson and Haledon. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious. And Time Bomb has gone on to be a cult classic. I had an editor I was working with, and she said to me, oh, you got to clean this thing all up, Paulie. You got to clean it up and make it into a real book. It would be a big hit. And I was like, nah, I'm never going to clean Time Bomb up. That's part of the magic, the bad grammar, the bad characters, the craziness of it. If I ever cleaned it all up and made it polished, I think it would spoil some of the charm. So thank you to the music reviews for getting me back into writing in this long adventure I've had now with 52 books. And it's been fun. So that's some of the background. That's how I got back into writing and music reviews and critique. Yeah, I know a lot about music and I listen to music, but any critic, any reviewer is just a fan. They're a fan that might have a lot of knowledge, but they're willing to put their opinions out there, be it sports, be it baseball, be it music, be it whatever, movies. Yeah, they're fans. They enjoy it, but they're willing to write about it. They're willing to talk about it, and they're willing to put their opinions out there and face the music of what might come back at them, because it's all subjective, and that's what makes it so much fun. Everybody enjoys what they enjoy. They might enjoy wine, they might enjoy beer, vanilla, chocolate ice cream, whatever. That's what makes it so much fun. It's subjective. There's no right, there's no wrong. You have your opinion, you like what you like, I like what I like. But to write it down and put it out there takes a certain amount of bravado, and you have to be willing to take the opinions you have to be willing to face. I pushed the right button. That comes back at you. I think I wrote this in Experiences, my book Experiences, because I love this. It's stuck in my mind as not only a reviewer who's put his opinions out there, but also as a writer who's faced criticisms and like, this is the worst piece of writing I've ever read type thing. There was a restaurant in a little town I was living in. It was very popular. Waiting line would be out the door on a Friday or a Saturday night. And the owner, the proprietor, put up this banner one day. It said, such and such restaurant, 492 4- and 5-star reviews. One-star review. And isn't that the truth? You know, there's always got to be that one-star review, and that's part of the fun of it. You can't make everybody happy. So here on this podcast, we are going to list PJH's 5 most overrated bands of all time. And I'm going to give you a little facts and my opinions, and it's subjective. So you might agree, you might disagree, and that's fine. But let me preface that by saying I never understood or understand. For instance, there's a very famous magazine, website, blah, 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 that rates like the 500 greatest music pieces or the 500 greatest guitarists or the 500 greatest songs of all time. My goodness, 500? When you get to 299, what's the difference between that and 300? Yeah, you could be objective and take facts, total record sales or whatever. But how do you separate it when you get to be at 300? Nonetheless, 500 seems mind-boggling, but Paulie always did 5 to 1, with 5 in this case being overrated, with 1 being supercalifragilisticexpialidocious overrated. And to me, that made more sense, 5 to 1. Otherwise, it gets too skewed. So this category, it does warrant an honorable mention. So let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's kick the elephant out of the room. And here we go. The on-mentions are going to be Boston, AC/DC, and the Ramones. I could have put a few more bands on there, like the Doors. The Doors were almost going to be on there. But Boston, all the songs sound the same. And we'll get to the wailing, loud, vocal type things like Boston's got going on later on in the list. But the wailing, powerful vocalist always kind of turns me off after a while. Yeah, a couple great songs, couple great albums and blah, blah, blah. But eventually, every single song sounds the same. The guitar tone is the same. It's the same style. It's the same. Brrr. It drives you crazy after a while. Let me also say, just because you're on this list doesn't mean you don't have talent. Doesn't mean the band was monumental. Doesn't mean that there weren't good records. Doesn't mean they don't have talent. Yes, they do. They're doing things that 99.9% of the population can't do, and I honor that. What I'm saying is, to make the overrated Paulie list, you're just not the phantasmagorical, full of adulation band that people say that you are. AC/DC, all the songs sound the same. It's wailing vocals, and I'm sorry, I think one of the band members said it themselves. We've made 12 albums, 11 sound the same, and number 12 sounds the same as the rest of the 11. have to agree. Not saying they're not fun, they're not great to listen to, but they're not the just unbelievable band that they're made out to be. The Ramones play three chords, and in the downstroke on the guitars, I think they're just simply not good musicians. And I don't think people will say that they're great musicians. Were they a band that plowed the road? Yeah, they set a tone. They were very important in the genre of rock that they pioneered. Once more, to me, every song sounds the same. I kind of enjoyed some of their songs. And for instance, the drumming is just bash, 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 bash. There's nothing to it. There's no fills. There's nothing to it. So those are my on mentions. Number 5, U2. It's arena rock, stadium rock, whatever you want to call it. One good album. Joshua Tree. Yep, some of the songs are good. And my old man used to say, I want to listen to a song that I can hum at work. That always stuck in my mind. And some of U2's songs I will hum. But when folks introduce political statements into music or into sports or whatever, they're the guy who scores a lot of touchdowns and he's suddenly going to be a political guy and he's going to state such and such should be such and such, and that turns Paulie off. I'm from the old school. My old man said, never discuss money, religion, or politics. And I don't discuss politics. It's a good way to lose friends. I just keep it to myself. I keep my views to myself. I do what I have to do behind the scenes. So when a music artist or an entertainer decides that their opinion is so much more important than anybody else, and he or she's going to change the world by stating their political statements when they're entertainers, it turns me off. Play your music. Keep your politics on the side. So U2 is just a turn off for me. And most of the music is kind of Boorsville, arena, stadium rock. It doesn't do it for me. So U2 is at number 5. Number 4 is Grateful Dead. And I get the hippie culture, jam band. They were at Woodstock, although it was an awful performance for them. I just don't get the Grateful Dead. It's just an endless jam of noise. And yeah, there's one or two good songs. I researched it. A Touch of Grey is really their only hit record that actually had record sales. Not that that's a big measuring stick, but I don't get the Grateful Dead. It's boring. It's just jam. It's a great party time for people. Yeah, get stoned, have a great time, dance around. That's all good. They got a cool logo. They got this cult following. Kudos to them. But they just are not worthy of the adulation that is reaped upon them. I'm going to listen to Truckin', Sugar Magnolia. Okay, and after that, I'm not listening to anything by the Grateful Dead. I think Jerry Garcia himself said it the best. Not everybody likes licorice, but the folks that like licorice really, really like licorice. And that's kind of what the Grateful Dead are. Some folks really like us, and some people are like, okay. Are they cool? Were they pioneers? Yeah, it's all good. And they're relatively harmless. But I'm not meeting many folks these days that are saying to me, hey, Paulie, I'll see you later, buddy. I'm going to go home and spin my Grateful Dead records all weekend long. They show up on the radio once in a while on the deep cuts, but not my cup of tea. Number 3 is Eagles. I found an interesting fact in researching and resurrecting my old list here. It's not the Eagles. It's Eagles. Just Eagles. And for a guy from New Jersey, we put a the in front of everything. We're going to the supermarket. We're going to the food town. We're going to the arena. We're going to the ball game. Everything has a the. So for me not to say the Eagles is difficult. I'm not an Eagles guy. The lyrics are kind of plain and simple. I don't know what a peaceful, easy feeling is. It's nice. I like the sound, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's very ambiguous. Nice guitars, nice strumming, nice harmonies, blah, blah, blah. It's not really offensive, but it's not really my groove. If I'm going to listen to a California sound, I'm probably going to listen to early Jackson Brown, not later Jackson Brown when he was political, maybe Fleetwood Mac. I'm not listening to Eagles. Take It Easy, great song, mostly written by Jackson Brown. I think he gave a little songwriting credit to maybe Don Henley, maybe. Memory serves me correct. Might be wrong about that, but big hit written by somebody else. But here's my nail in the coffin for Eagles, Hotel California, because I am a Jethro Tull fan. And Hotel California is a ripoff of a Tull song written in 1968 called We Used to Know. And Eagles, when they were in their early days, were actually touring with Tull as an opening act. And I can see where, and Ian Anderson of Tull says, yeah, they probably overheard us. They heard us play the song, rehearsing. They were right next door. These things happen. There's only so many chord structures in rock and roll, and I get that. But it is a exact ripoff of We Used to Know. Now, they put it in a different time signature, and the beats on the measures are a little bit different. But to me, as a Tull guy, I hang my hat on that this Hotel California that elevated Eagles to this great status is really not their own song. And that really is a black cloud that hangs over my head for Eagles. So Eagles is at number 3. Here is number 2. And this one is going to get me in a lot of hot water. Led Zeppelin. I go back to the wailing lead vocalist, the powerful vocalist. And Robert Plant is a gifted vocalist. And these songs are great. And of course, they're a pioneer rock and roll band. But what I'm saying here is they are not the unbelievable, phantasmagorical, greatest rock and roll band of all time. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of wailing. Songs kind of almost sound the same. Great musicians. I put Page up there in my top 10. He's not my top 5 guitarist. Bonham himself said he was not the greatest drummer that England ever produced. He said Barrymore Barlow, Jethro Tull, is the best English drummer. And I think fans just elevate them based upon this adulation that they're this great musicians. And another problem I have with Led Zeppelin, and I'll circle back in a little bit, is taking other people's work, very much like Eagles. But one point I want to make before I circle back to that is my litmus test with Zeppelin, hardcore Zeppelin people say, Paulie, you're nuts. They're the greatest, blah, blah, blah. I say, give me 7 songs of Led Zeppelin that you will listen to every day and love. And I think like Eagles, Zeppelin is overplayed on the radio, on the deep tracks, on the, the behind the scenes type radio, the internet stations. They're there constantly with Stairway to Heaven and Whole Lot of Love. And I think they get on your nerves because of that. But I think I had one person, most people can get to 5. Immigrant Song, Black Dog, Stairway to Heaven, blah, 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 Kashmir. I had one person get to 12, which was very impressive. After that, they're like, I can't think of a single song I enjoy. If they're honest, that I really listen to all the time. So that's my litmus test. There are 26 music complaints about Led Zeppelin taking other folks' music. Now, some of these, Zeppelin, the songwriters just outright said, yes, we're going to give you songwriting credit. Others, they didn't, and they had to be pursued through court or harassment or whatever before they finally said, "Yeah, okay, yep, we'll give you credit. Yeah, we stole this, we stole that." And I get there's only so many chords, and like Ian Anderson said, no hard feelings, but there's 26, and let me bring up the list here. Um, it's a lot of songs. A whole lot of love is on there. The Lemon Song, Moby Dick, Since I've Been Loving You, Gallows Pole, Physical Graffiti. Of course, Stairway to Heaven is mired in controversy. The Girl I Love, She Got Long, Black, Wavy Hair. Hello, Mary Lou. These are controversial songs that Zeppelin recorded that were other people's work. Now, the Stairway to Heaven thing, I know that they have won that. I think they won that. I listened to that song just before I recorded this podcast, and it's by a band called Spirit, and the song is Taurus, and it's purely instrumental. There is one section of that song, I'm not saying the entire song, but there is one section of that, in my opinion, is identical to Stairway to Heaven. So the wailing vocals, the noise, every song sounds the same, and the black cloud of controversy puts Led Zeppelin at number 2. Are they great? Yeah. Are they pioneers? Sure. Will they always be honored? Yes. But they're number 2 on Paulie's list. Number 1, here we go. Let's give it a... Oh boy, it's the Beatles. And here's my problem with the Beatles. Once more, I'm going to discount the I Want to Hold Your Hand era, which a lot of those riffs come from Chuck Berry type things. But let's get rid of the I Want to Hold Your Hand era, and let's go to when they made sort of more serious music, so to speak. For every good or great song that the Beatles recorded, there's 10 stinkers. That's the way. I'm from New Jersey. I'm just not going to sugarcoat it. There's 10 stinkers. Were they, once more, like Led Zeppelin, were they pioneers? Absolutely. Would rock and roll exist like it does now without the Beatles? Probably not. But were they the greatest, unbelievable band of all time, the Fab? No. No. Were they great? Were they fun? Were they valuable in their time? Absolutely. But the adulation for the Beatles, and particularly the songwriting of Lennon and McCartney, I don't understand. I truly don't understand it. Some of these melodies are not even pleasant. They're not even fun songs to listen to. And I got into this with a music critic who was oh my goodness, firm Beatles fan. And he's like, "Paul, you're crazy. Listen to the White Album. It's the greatest rock and roll record of all time." Yeah, there's a few songs on there, maybe the first half of the White Album, which is actually the Beatles, but they call it the White Album. That's great. The rest of the songs are awful. Nobody's listening to Revolution number 9. Nobody's listening to Long, Long, Long. Nobody's listening to Honey Pie. I don't even like Dear Prudence. I just don't like the melodies that they composed. Now, I do like George Harrison. I like the way he plays the guitar. I like Here Comes the Sun. I love Guitar Weeps. I think he was the suppressed Beatle. I think he was a good person, a great musical talent that could have been greater. And he was later on. I love him in the Wilburys with Jeff Lynne, and when Jeff produced a lot of his music. And as much as I'm not a Beatles fan, I am an ELO fan. And I don't understand that. But, and I know the song was written as kind of a spoof or revenge on somebody who said that John Lennon wrote, crazy lyrics or whatever. It's psychedelic rock from Magical Mystery Tour, I Am a Walrus. But for them to publish and record I Am the Walrus, it's actually embarrassing to me. If I'm going to listen to psychedelic rock, I'm going to listen to Pink Floyd. Lyrics 1, 2, 3. I am he as you are he, as you are me, and we are all together. See how they run like pigs from a gun. See how they fly. I'm crying. Sitting on a cornflake, waiting for the van to come. I am the Eggman. You are the Eggmen. I am the walrus. Goo goo, goo job. Combine that with Monkey Finger, Coca-Cola. Like I said, for every great Beatles song, there's a bunch of stinkers. Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer comes down upon my head. We all live in a yellow submarine. It's just not my bag. And were they great? Sure. And were they important? Absolutely. Do I respect them? Yes. But once more, what I'm saying is they're not this great phantasmagorical band that folks want to make them out to be. Young people nowadays are not listening to the Beatles. A lot of folks don't even know them. But I know a lot of young people who tell me about Johnny Cash, which I find very interesting. You know, when I talk music at a bar or something and a young person says, yeah, I like Johnny Cash. I walk the line. I don't get the Beatles. I don't get the Grateful Dead. I don't get Zeppelin. So there's the most overrated. There they are. I'm willing to put it out there, and I'm willing to take the heat. And you can agree, disagree. That's the fun of this. It's all subjective, just my opinion as a guy who's listened to a lot of music. And I really appreciate you tuning in on this podcast. And you can write us at God Bless the Keg Publishing at gmail.com and say, Paulie, you're a lunatic. Or, Paulie, I agree with you. You made some good points. I didn't know that about this and this and this. So that's the end of this podcast. I got to get all these people out of here that have somehow, I hope I can get them through the door of the Writing Command Center. All right, time to leave now. You wore out. You're welcome. Hey, we'll see you next time. You won't hurt my feelings if you say I'm crazy and this is the worst podcast you ever heard and I'm a lunatic and I know zero about music. I'm just a guy from Paterson, New Jersey. And hey, I'll see you next time.